Hey guys, what's up? Some of my podcasts are on the profound side, some are on the shallow side, some are on the edgy side, some are a little bit fun, a little bit of self-parody or self-indulgence. This is addressed instead to what I think of as a pragmatic question. And my pragmatic videos have been some of the most deeply appreciated. By that I mean the videos where I talk through what you actually say in a certain situation, how you actually handle people when you're being confronted by people who are hostile to veganism, when you're confronted with certain types of questions, when people demand proof that veganism can cure cancer, or whatever the controversy of the moment is. People may demand proof that it's possible to be healthy on a vegan diet. That is sort of the realm of pragmatic discussion of veganism. And even though, in some ways it's a little bit shallow, I know that people really appreciate it because so many of us struggle alone for years to deal with those situations. And also most of us struggle without preparation. Most of us, we find ourselves suddenly confronted by a boss or a coworker and not, obviously without having a script or what have you. I think that one of the most distorting aspects of this puzzle is that people tend to think of the world in terms of pro-vegan and anti-vegans. And if you spend your time on the internet, increasingly that's the way the world will seem to be around you. But it's not the case. The vast majority of the world's population are neither pro nor anti. They've simply never thought about veganism, or even if they have, they certainly haven't thought about veganism in my terms. And I'm saying my terms as a big shortcut here. There are a lot of different ways to present veganism and to conceptualize and think about veganism. You can think about it in terms of puppies are cute, pigs are cute, therefore don't eat pigs because you wouldn't eat puppies. Many people approach it in that way. I think that's a tremendously weak way to present the argument of veganism to outsiders, but you can try it. There's no harm in trying. You may enjoy having that discussion with people, but after you've done it a few dozen times, you may find some of the discussion on my own channel rewarding because it gives you other approaches. You could approach veganism by discussing the theory of evolution and whether or not the alignment of our teeth, the nature of our jaw and our digestive organs is somehow structurally suited to veganism, that we're evolved to be vegan rather than omnivores or carnivores. You may find that intellectually stimulating. You may find that rewarding. I do not think it's an effective way to approach the matter. And again, there's no harm. Go ahead in your conversations with your friends, coworkers, boss. Knock yourself out. And after you've done it a few dozen times, you may come to this channel and take some interest in the reflections I have to offer. If not, that's cool too. But as I say, this whole channel is kind of advanced veganism. It's sort of for people who've already dealt with the preliminary frustrations and are really interested in questions of effective activism, organization, and, dare I say, saving the world. What a precious phrase. Hey, I like the verb save much more than I like the verb abolish. To digress for a moment here. It's so easy to talk about abolishing the meat industry. It's so easy to talk about abolition. And it's much more difficult to talk about what that means step by step in practice. So saving the world, even though it may sound a bit childish, to me actually that's less silly than just talking about abolishing everything we disagree with. At any rate, so I've mentioned the different approaches that I don't do. One of the paradigms I'm famous for is the paradigm of comparing veganism to cigarette smoking. Now, it's somebody else must have done it before me. It's so obvious. But I admit I did invent that, within my own life. Nobody else ever told that to me. I've never seen or read anyone using that comparison. But it's so obvious there must be other animal rights activists who've used it at least briefly, at least in passing. So even if you haven't heard it before, well, I'm about to tell a story of how I just met my Chinese teacher, the woman who's my main teacher in my classes here, and I explained veganism to her using this parable of cigarette smoking. So I sat down with my Chinese teacher. We've talked quite a lot. I'm doing 4 hours of class per day, 5 days per week. Tremendously intense language course here. And I think I'm going to spend more time recording videos on the internet because I'll be burned out. It's all I can do with my brain when I'm not in class or studying Chinese characters. In any case, I sat down with her and she was filling out a form about me. she had to ask me a series of questions. And she said, well, what are your interests or hobbies? And I said, well, veganism, it's the truth. I mean, what am I going to lie? Am I going to tell you that I play volleyball? No, my main interest and hobby, in that sense is veganism. So I explained to her what veganism was. She didn't know. She'd never heard the word before. And even when I used the Chinese word, she was confused about it. She didn't know. Okay. But then the next thing I said to her was, vegan is not just a type of food. It's a political struggle. Now, I use the word struggle because I'm talking to a mainland Chinese person. And in Chinese, they use the word struggle very, very often for different political periods of time. Where we might use movement, political movement, they would often say political struggle. And she was very surprised that I said that. Now, here in China, to a greater extent than in democratic countries, many people just do not think about politics and do not think politically, even though, of course, politics is in the newspaper constantly. But many of the people around you, they think about politics as little as you or I might think about plumbing. As long as the plumbing works, we don't think about it. If somebody asks you, oh, gee, this building has great plumbing, who did the plumbing? Who was the plumber? Who was the engineer who designed the plumbing? You don't know. You never paid attention. Somebody did it. Some human hands set it up. If there's a disaster, if suddenly the pipes burst or rupture, if there's a disaster with the plumbing, suddenly you're interested. Suddenly you want to know who did it, who's responsible. Suddenly, plumbing's a big deal to you. So in the same way, when there's a disaster here, people suddenly pay attention to politics and the government. But many people, not all. I mean, I spend my time around, of course, the minority of people who really enjoy thinking about politics, including, of course, my own university professors. But many people you encounter here just do not think politically. So she had already two surprises. One, she'd never heard of veganism before. And two, she'd never thought of this as a political issue. Now, obviously, this conversation couldn't have even gotten to this productive point if I had the attitude of either you're with us or against us. If I had the attitude that if you're not pro-vegan, you're anti-vegan or something like this. I was really having a sort of gentle approach of recognizing this was this person's first introduction to the concept. So she asked, astounded, in what sense could veganism be a political struggle? She's just thinking of it as a food preference. That's what she thinks it is. And what I said to her was, using this parallelism that I've explained so many times on my YouTube channel that really is so useful in daily life situations, I said to her, everyone knows that cigarettes are bad for your health. 100 years in the future, will people still smoke cigarettes? Now, obviously, I'm speaking to someone whose ability in English is very limited, so speaking in a very simple way. But this is the way I broke it down for her. And she was, she really thought about this. She didn't really answer with words, but you could see on the look of her face that this was also a stunning statement to her. Said, if we want to, get rid of cigarettes in the next 1 year, if we want everyone to stop smoking cigarettes, that is a political struggle. For just one person to quit smoking cigarettes is not political, but for everyone to quit smoking cigarettes is political. And then I said to her, I don't just want to stop eating pigs. I want you to stop eating pigs. I want him to stop eating pigs. I want her to stop eating pigs. I want everyone to stop eating pigs. And it's for that reason that veganism is a political struggle. Now, I know some of you, I'm not talking to a child, I'm talking to an adult woman, but she's someone who speaks English as her second language and doesn't speak English very well. And this was a, patient and sort of caring introduction to the basic concept of veganism. And this argument ended. She didn't say much at this point. She was sort of just saying, really, she just found it really interesting and surprising. It was a totally new paradigm for a totally new set of thoughts. And the final thing I said to her then, finishing the parallel with cigarette smoking, was I said to her, tell me, 100 years from now, will people still eat pigs? And to many Chinese people, this is a shocking idea, because all their ancestors, for more than 1,000 years, for more than 3,000 years, they've always eaten pigs here. But of course, now we know that pigs are bad for you, the same way we know cigarettes are bad for you. So this opens up a question, right? Now, obviously, this didn't deal with the agony of the animals. This didn't deal with the ecology. This didn't deal with anything else. It's possible that in the next 2 months, I'm going to talk to this teacher more about veganism. It's possible we'll never talk about it again. But I mean, she didn't ask for a 1-hour lecture. This was a very brief, non-confrontational introduction to the long game of veganism. Because from my perspective, that's what we're playing for. If you're new to my channel, if you're a new subscriber, please go and see my 8-minute video called On Community. Many of my videos are 40 minutes long or more than an hour long, but that 8-minute video gives you a sense of what my aspirations are. And I think those are the aspirations you need to share with people when you're first introducing them to the concept of veganism. And you do not need to share with them the agony of how hard it is to be a vegan. You do not need to share with them your own sense of bitterness or frustration or being persecuted, even though that may be a very real part of your life. Thank you all for listening, guys. Hit me up.
Talk a monkey out a banana tree. I'm a PIMP.